Welcome back everyone to another video. Today, this video is going to be another chill journaling video, but I'm kind of experimenting with different formats. I teased over on Substack that I might turn this particular post that I did last year into a video. We're going to experiment with that today. Now, if you haven't read this post yet on Substack, I'm going to read it here. Before we get into that though, I want to preface this video by saying that I don't have any problem with writing as a profession. I write technically as part of my income, whether that's on Substack, whether that's the book that I released last year, the book that I'm working on for this year. I very much enjoy writing for work, but in the last few years, unlocking this ability to write in a restful way, in a playful way. So this essay was to explore that, to really formalize or at least put my toes in the water, get something out there about making this attempt, right? I don't think something like this is ever going to go viral because it's not like a way to turn your writing into making $1 million or something. But I do think for the soul, for at least my soul, this practice has been, worth more than money. Let's get into the essay. I'll read the essay and then we will talk about some practical takeaways from it, things that you can do to help you write more restfully, to use writing as rest. This past March, I got a concussion only 3 months after my mother's passing and spent days laid up in bed. My wife blacked out all the windows in our room so I could have a cave of reprieve like a wandering saint from centuries ago. This refuge was as still as a habitation could be while sharing a partition with a 2-year-old playing. But the inside of my head was like a pinball machine. Flashing lights, bumpers with different sounds and sayings. Our modern age has made minds into arcades. Years of finger strokes at a keyboard and a screen made writing seem to me more like labor, less like resting. With my brain injury, I struggled to look at screens. I found my old headlamp with a red light and fastened it to my brow as my pen and journal came out. Now, every night, I write as a form of rest. Sometimes it's simply little notes to myself. On occasion, I'm penning an encouragement to a friend to later send when I am on the mend. The most restful writing for me is words of affection. Some call this romantic. I must admit I am a Latin man with a head still a bit Roman, but empires aside, I believe anxiety a sign of atrophied agency. After all, what is agency but the practice of affecting? Though now nearly brain dead and almost crippled by grief, I found quiet moments of reprieve by penning notes in the evening. Men may marvel when the word became flesh, but fewer men practice flesh becoming the word. Crafting characters into meaning is after all a divine thing. I found scribing little vespers in the dark by some miracle of creation turns a prayer into a vacation. Even when my son stirs, I am not bothered, for this kind of rest mends more than mortal wounds. Do not let it take great injury or even the grave to begin writing as rest. I stole away the other day to write my wife a little note, the most enjoyable avenue of affection. When my son is restless, I offer him my pen and a page. Then wild lines eventually give way to venture and play before settling into sweet, sauntering spells of rest. It was St. Augustine who began his confessions with, "You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you." What came next from the ancient bishop's pen were 70,000 words of rest. No goal of views and likes, no great aim of viral fame. This African saint had found a peaceful dwelling place by way of writing. I know there will come a day when my head will be healed and the grief will no longer be so fresh and heavy. Yet even in good health, I will keep this little lost art of rest by writing. As practitioners of prayers on paper and pen, may your soul find rest in writing again. Be blessed, my friends. Okay, so that was the essay. If you like that essay and you want to support what I do, I'll have a link to it down in the description below. You can obviously sign up and subscribe to my Substack. If you decide to support me there, that helps a ton. If you don't like recurring subscriptions, I know that can be a thing for a lot of people. I do have my ebook, which I'll also link in the description, which you can check out. It's a devotional. So let's talk about these 3 different ways to explore writing as rest. This first part that I talked about in there about agency and really relating that to affection. I think there's just been a lot of talk, online about agency. Agency's become sort of this buzzword. And I think what we're really trying to get at is affection. I think we want to be able to have affection for each other, affection for ourselves. But that's not as, viral sounding, I don't know. But to encourage others, you need to be involved in their lives, their desires, their struggles, their successes. And this is way better than gratitude journaling. I've seen a lot of videos on gratitude journaling. I've done a lot of gratitude journaling myself. It didn't necessarily make me happier or more generative, I guess, in a way. It did bring some peace to recognize certain things, but I realized it removed this agency of affection. Whereas when you're doing encouragement journaling, which I've talked about on this channel before, you're writing little notes to friends, family members, even to yourself maybe, where you are not just saying that you're thankful for someone for something, but you're letting them know why you're thankful for what they've done or how they've done something. It may not even be something that directly benefits you, but delighting in watching someone else come alive. I think that's what encouragement really is. And when we give that to other people, we find it more freely for ourselves. And so when it comes to encouragement journaling, like I will send off probably half a dozen to a dozen emails that start in my notebooks as little notes about, oh, I gotta encourage this person about this thing because I read this post that they did, or I saw this photo, or I'm remembering that, yeah, this person told me a few weeks ago they were interviewing for this job or they were going to take this trip, and I'm going to follow up with them and encourage them and ask them how that adventure went, what they got out of it, how it changed maybe or shaped who they are, whatever it is, even the smallest things, and let people know just something about them, whether it's like, hey, the way that you are on this adventure, on this journey, and sharing that with other people is inspiring. Maybe it's a valuable thing that is rare in the world, and just sometimes noting that and saying, oh, this is a rare attribute of an individual that is in my life, even if they're just acquaintances or friends that you don't get to see very often. I'll even sometimes go back to journals and look at what I was doing from years prior. And I had an instance a few months ago now where I had a friend that I traveled with probably 6 or 7 years ago. And I finally reread a story kind of from one of those travels, and just being able to go back to that and then message that friend like, hey, do you remember this trip and some of these stories from here? And just the memory of being able to go back to that moment and take some of those joys from that memory into the present moment and thank that person for helping create that experience that I can continue to have for the rest of my life. That's what encouragement journaling is about. And that, to me, I think is some of the most powerful ways to have affection, and ultimately not just affect other people, but affect yourself and affect yourself for good. I guess the last little piece I'll have to talk about in there is that this sort of idea of affection and writing affections, like think of it like a confessional. You don't have to send these to people, right? There's the old trope in the Victorian era where you would just write a letter and then shove it in a drawer and pray no one ever saw it. Like that's real. Like I think we need to bring that back. That's, draft your tweets and wait a week until you actually post something. Maybe something like that, right? But also having some of those things can be like a compass for yourself. That can be something that allows you to see what direction you're heading, the direction maybe the people around you are heading, encouraging people to move in the right direction, encouraging yourself to move in the right direction. So I really like that sort of play of like these things can be like a confessional and also a compass. So take that with you on your encouragement and affection writing. I guess to me, it always feels restful because if I'm spending time on the page with no commitment to have to send something to someone else, and with the freedom to know that I can commit that to the flame, or I can shove that in a drawer, or it could just be a note that lives in a notebook that gets archived somewhere and is never seen. That freedom is very restful in a lot of ways. And I like that. I think that's, I think we all need that. The second bit that I want to take away from that essay is this idea of logging, just writing down the little things, like scribing the little details, the little vespers, as I talked about in that essay. Sometimes it's just as simple as like I will write something down about giving my son a snack, or just like making him effectively a child charcuterie board. I don't know why it's so fun to do that, but little things like that, or little quips that my son will have, especially like at mass. Little tiny things like these notebooks are so full with some little things that I think on the surface don't sound like something that is particularly noteworthy or should be memorable. But I think sometimes when you're painting the picture of your life, you're going to make these little tiny brush strokes that maybe at a distance you can't really tell what they are, how they add to the piece. But it's about that resolution in your life and being able to look at things and be grateful for the small stuff. I think getting back to the gratitude thing, I think this is something where you can have that smaller low lift and start building, like, I guess, the resolution around what you want to encourage someone in. by having this little log, this little dossier of just little things. And sometimes we tell ourselves we haven't done enough. We will claim, I know I used to be like this, where I'd just be like, oh, I'm so busy. I'm busy, busy, busy. And I would go to like my notebook and I wouldn't be able to fill a page with like all the little things that I did. I just would feel busy all the time. Now, if I can write down 3 things that I did, even if there were small little things like making my son a snack or holding my daughter or taking my wife out for a meal, like those little things are more than enough to add up to like a very full and wonderful day for me. Or if it's something like making a video, doing any of like my little hobbies, just even sometimes writing that I got the chance or I made the chance to write, that can be a win, right? So like there is sort of this like recursive thing here where it's like if you do write to rest, you can write about how you are choosing to rest by writing. It sounds kind of recursive, but it works. It absolutely does work in the same way that we return to sleep every day, every evening. I think returning to write restfully can be one of those things that the mere act of doing it and even writing about doing the act is enough to find rest, or at least enter in and begin that rest and then start doing some of these other exercises. The last bit I will say about this, actually before I get into that, I'm going to pull this out. We're going to show you guys off a few things. This is my son's notebook here because, I wasn't kidding when I said I give him sometimes these like filled notes to journal in. But what's really cool is he sees me journaling and taking notes and, writing things down. And so he wants to do what dad is doing. And so I'll from time to time give him a field notes notebook, and he slowly worked through this one, knocking out just pages of like scribbles and wild lines. But it is wild to watch him do this, because every time we come to the page, the lines, like he can move really quickly just making lines. And I'm trying not to make this too much of a Rorschach test, but you know your kids when you have your kids, if you have kids, and you hopefully know yourself, right? It's like sometimes you just write really furiously and you're writing fast, and then you got to ask yourself like, what's the rush? We're still here. And then sometimes I'll watch my son just like slowly practice like little circles or just little shapes and start building things more methodically. And watching him journal and take notes has been really life-giving, in a strange way, right? Like, it's one of these things that just has helped me reflect on my own practice. If you're a parent and you want some peace and quiet and your kids are old enough, like my son, he's going to be 4 this year, just old enough to scribble on a page, this can be really valuable to just getting 15 minutes of time to sit down and write, is by just giving your kid a notebook and some colors and pens or whatever, and letting them have at. And I kept this one. I think this is the first one that I gave my son, because it's a little reminder for me that like, I can I can make a messy notebook. Like he even tore the whole front of this thing off of here. That's great. This actually inspires me in a lot of ways, and hopefully it'll inspire you. Yeah, he's even got some stickers in here. Look at that. Okay, there's this line, I think it's in the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus says, "Where your treasure is, there your heart will be." And I think you could replace treasure today with time, with calendar, with your focus. I like the word devotion. I think, show me your calendar and I'll show you your religion. I think that's really true in our modern era. And for those of you who have followed me on Substack, I write a lot about careers having become the religions of the 21st century. We didn't really become less religious. There aren't actually atheists walking around. They're just people who believe in careers, modernity, whatever it is. And when it comes to that observation, I'm most interested in what the notebook and what pen and paper can do as a devotion for the way I've chosen. I'm live in the United States of America. I have freedom of religion. I'm going to use it. And this is my way of using it, is being able to write and being able to meditate through the pen and the page. But if you're feeling misaligned, if you're feeling like, I feel busy and restless, using the page to train your focus and allowing your focus then to move your heart in a place where you actually have a treasure that you want in life, that's part of what this whole thing is about. I think today, I mentioned St. Augustine's Confessions, but thinking about one of his other pieces, City of God. Like if City of God were written today, I think the the young people thing to say would be like it's a cope. It comes off as a cope under like the rubric of modernity, and it probably came off as a cope to a lot of people inside of the Roman Empire in whatever it was, the 400s, when he wrote and published City of God. I think City of God was published. I think it was sent as a letter, actually, or like a collection of letters. But in City of God, St. Augustine, is dealing with the fact that, yeah, Rome's been invaded, Rome has fallen. I don't think Augustine was actually trying to stay in that. Like, it's very clear that St. Augustine wanted to process this idea that, like, the actual city of Rome isn't the city of God, but the city of God is this bigger idea. And in a lot of ways, he was writing these prayers of hope to people who needed hope, people who felt conquered or disparaged at like a modern, or at the current political climate and the current political situation, whatever you want to call it. And wow, more than ever is City of God. And that idea of writing as writing out these prayers and retraining the focus not on like that maybe one little moment in history, but what it means for the bigger history, I guess, of the world and the people who, share in this devotion, this religion, this belief. Train yourself to focus on the enduring things by writing. That for me, I think, has been one of the more restful things, because like you don't need me to tell you that you can turn on any news machine. Probably even here on YouTube, you could find 100 different videos that will tell you to, in short, be afraid of something or be worried, be concerned. Look at these people, aren't they so, inept or whatever. And they're your countrymen. Scribe out those prayers to yourself to make sure that you're not caught up in those things. I really do think this comes down to something big, and this will be the last idea for this video, which is I don't think we date ourselves well, in the sense that like we don't go on dates for ourselves. We just don't spend enough time with ourselves, like really getting to know ourselves. And I think when I look at all my notebooks, whether it's like my daily notebook, my little Ansaldo style journal here, the notebook I've been using for adoration, this little notebook for my Latin notes, and this notebook now here that I've been using for Lent, all of these are ways that I'm devoting time to not just experience things, but get to know myself too. And I find that this makes me a better husband, better father, because I'm practicing the skills that I need to be really present with the people I love most, and also just strangers, friends, business partners, people I work with. Taking the time to retrain your focus so you can enjoy a date with yourself, and you can go on a date for an hour or two to a coffee shop, to a restaurant. I have this little tiny pub. It's like my total secret, but you guys are here at the end of the video, so I can tell you this. It's like I have this little tiny pub that is down the road from a ranger station on the border of the forest where I live. I will go there. I don't even drink anymore. I'll get like a Coke or something, and maybe order a burger, or right now with Lent, I order a salad, and I will just sit at that bar and write for an hour or two, or I'll bring like a book or something and I'll read, and I make sure I tip my tender well, because I know I'm taking up a seat, but it's actually this like little place where there's very few people ever there because it's like a pub on the edge of a forest by a ranger station. It's great finding little places like that for yourself, but then creating like a little space wherever you go that feels as cozy as that with someone else. That's the kind of skill that I'm refining here and want to share with all of you. So thank you. If you guys made it this far in this video, thank you so much. Please provide some feedback in the comments if you like these kinds of styles of videos. Let me know if you have any other questions, and just a reminder to subscribe to the Substack if you enjoyed that essay. If you want to help support the channel or support what I do online, you can do like a paid subscription on Substack, or purchase my ebook Restored in the Rhythm, a little devotional that I wrote and came out with last year. With that, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's subscribed to this channel. If you haven't yet, please do so. That's free, and I really do appreciate it. Be kind, both in life and in the comments below, and like this video to send good vibes across the internet. And we'll do it again soon. Later.